I hope that you enjoy this Easter season. So the first thing on the agenda that we have today is Vigano. He wrote a letter and he gave an interview this week. And so the letter was about the Latin Mass, or the private Mass ban at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. And he said that it is following the values of Vatican II, and here's a quote. Faced with this umpteenth scandal, we can note with dismay the timid and complicit silence of the prelates. Where are the other cardinals? Where is the archpriest emeritus of the Basilica? Where is Cardinal Ree, who, like me, celebrated for years daily his private Mass in St. Peter's? Why are they now silent in the face of so much abuse? But he stopped short of challenging the cardinals, bishops, priests to say their own private Mass in St. Peter's Basilica. If it is such an unjust regulation, then why don't they just say their own Mass? But Vigano stopped short of that. Now I know that it was Cardinal Sarah, and along with Cardinal Burke and a few other cardinals, Brandmuller, he also criticized this, but none of them have done anything. And so that's going to remain the procedure or the regulation until someone actually goes and does something. The interview he gave was the Maundy-Thursday interview, and I encourage you to read it. It almost sounds like the SSPX response to the Novus Ordo questions. He was asked a question about the Novus Ordo, what should people do if they don't have options available. Here's a great quote. He said, "The faithful have a grave moral duty at least to seek out a Mass celebrated with decorum and respect by a pious priest who administers Holy Communion on the tongue." Later down he says, "And if we ourselves cannot assist with regularity at the holy sacrifice of the rite handed down to us by the apostles, let us keep our distance from those who profane the Blessed Sacrament and use the pulpit to corrupt faith and morals. I'd like to reiterate, however, out of a duty of conscience, that wherever it is possible to assist at the Tridentine Mass without serious inconvenience, this must certainly be preferred to the Reformed Mass." Now there is a question about whether he thinks Francis is Pope, and he listed some of the, common claims that Benedict is still Pope, and he said, yeah, there's a lot of credibility to this stuff, but he says that we would need a declaration by the supreme authority of the Church to believe otherwise, that Benedict is Pope. So he does think that Francis is still Pope. He said, for now, we must accept that. And so I know there's a lot of opinions about who is the real Pope. Vigano thinks Francis is Pope. On Saturday, March 27th, from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Rome time, the lights of the dome and facade of St. Peter's Basilica were turned off in honor of Earth Hour of Darkness Against Climate Change. This was the Saturday before Palm Sunday. It is interesting to see where the Vatican's priorities are. Not that any of you are surprised, not that I am surprised, but this is what's going on in the Vatican. The priority of the climate is taking precedence over even Holy Week. A New Jersey church in Monmouth Beach, New Jersey, Church of the Precious Blood, announced on their website that they were having confessions, but only for those who had received the jab. Now, there was public pressure. This was brought to the attention of Catholic Twitter, and they relented on this process. And what they did was they said that if you had the jab, you could receive confession in the confessional, but otherwise you had to go face-to-face if you did not receive the jab. It's still discriminatory. I don't know how they're going to tell the difference between who received the jab and who didn't, but I wouldn't go to this church for confession. They have an LMNOP faith-sharing ministry, and on their website they have something titled The Proper Usage of a Mask. And so I think that they're full-out virus religion, anti-Catholic. I would certainly avoid that place and try to go to confession elsewhere. But I think the larger point here is that the crazy churches are going to try to force people to get the jab. They're going to try to discriminate against people who don't have the jab. But with public pressure, we can pressure them to do things in a different way. I don't know what exactly is going to happen. You could get a supervised bishop who sides with the parish, but in this situation, public pressure caused them to change their policy. Recently, Father James Martin had an online discussion. It was called Hope for Judas. Did you check it out? Neither did I. It is titled A Spiritual Conversation About Judas and God's Boundless Mercy for All. So, I guess the Jesuits are making a hero out of Judas. That makes sense. They have no interest in Catholicism. And in the Bible, Judas was the one who, when Mary Magdalene poured the expensive oil over Jesus' feet, Judas said, "Why did she not sell that oil and donate it to the poor?" And it said that Judas had no intention of donating the money to the poor. However, Judas was a modern day, or a biblical social justice warrior. We would refer to the Jesuits as modern day social justice warriors, and we could also, refer to them as modern day Judases, and it wouldn't be an insult to the Jesuits. On the National Catholic Register, I read an article about how church membership among Catholics has declined nearly 20% since the year 2000. In 20 years, it's dropped 20%. Only 36% of millennials say that they are a member of the church, and nearly one-third of millennials say they do not belong to any religion. My generation is the millennials. Bishop Barron, I think it was a few years ago at the USCCB meeting, had a presentation on how to reach out to millennials, and that was a long discussion by Ryan and I several years ago. You can check out that video if you want. The article also said that church membership declined more steeply among Democrats than Republicans and independents. At least the Democrats are being honest. Recently, there was a poll that asked, should Biden receive communion? And a Catholic news agency summarized the research. 2 out of 3 Catholics say yes, that's 66%. 55% of Catholic Republicans or other conservatives said that Biden should be denied communion, while only 11% of Democrats or other liberals say that he should be denied communion. And so I would say, based on this study, 66% of Catholics are not Catholic, only 33% are, and there is a majority among Republicans that think that Biden should be denied communion, but that's still very sad. Biden supports abortion. He has performed an LMNOP marriage. He was a minister at an LMNOP marriage. If you are a minister at any marriage, that's against the Catholic faith. Don't be a minister at a non-Catholic wedding. You can't, unless you're a priest, you can't be a minister. I think a priest or a deacon. You can't be a minister at a Catholic wedding, but don't be a minister at a non-Catholic wedding. But anyway, this research, it just shows the erosion of Catholicism, the Catholic faith. I believe this is referring to statistics in the United States. And so we have a very big crisis in faith, but somehow traditionalists are the problem, according to numerous modernists. Father David Fulton of Omaha, Nebraska was forced to apologize for his participation in the January 6th rally at the Capitol. There was an interview in which Father Fulton held up a book of exorcism prayers and told the interviewer he had performed an exorcism at the U.S. Capitol because a demon is, quote, dissolving the country. Now he was forced by his bishop, Archbishop George Lucas, to recite an apology at Mass. And Father David Fulton is not an exorcist, and so that led to some questions. But the fact that a bishop would, not permit this priest to appear at that rally while praying for, the soul of the country, that says a lot about what state we are in as a country. Cardinal Wilton Gregory encouraged his priest to participate in an anti-Trump rally in Washington prior to the election. That bishop encouraged his priests to participate in that rally, but this bishop in Omaha, he can't participate in a rally defending a president who supports pro-life. This is the type of divide we're seeing in our church, the divisions, And I think it was Cardinal Cantalamessa, I don't know if it was at a Vatican Mass, but he talked about the divisions in the church and how we need to not be so divisive and we need blind obedience. And this is what our priests are increasingly being pressured to do, is give in to the blind obedience. Oh, I know you support LMNOP. I know you oppose pro-life, or I know you support the slaughter of the unborn, but you know what? I can't be divisive. We're going to see more and more of that pressure, and we can't give in to that, and we need to encourage our priests that we're going to have their backs and stand behind them if they are pressured to speak against Catholicism by their bishops. Recently there were 2 videos online of police in churches, and so the first one was a London Good Friday service. It was at a Catholic Polish parish, and a police officer went into the sanctuary and spoke to the congregation and said, "The gathering is unlawful, so I encourage everyone to go home." And you know what they did? They went home. That is something that I did not like to see, because the priest at that point should have said, no, we're not going home. He doesn't have to be forceful. He doesn't have to fight against the law enforcement. All he has to do is say, no, none of us are leaving until this Good Friday service is ended. And that's all you need to do. I don't think that's that much of a problem. And, the number of police officers in that church, I saw 2 in the video. I don't know if there were any more outside. And are they going to get the whole police force to arrest an entire church full of people? Maybe. But so be it. And they will collectively not pay the fine. They will file the appeal. And then if they need to serve jail time, collectively all the families will serve jail time. That's how it works. That's how it needs to work in our church. And we saw that in Canada. There were Polish Christians. I don't think they were Catholics. I think it was a Protestant church, and I believe it was the pastor. You can take a look at the video. It starts at the end, whenever there was apparently a woman who, I don't know if she called the police or if they called the police, but apparently she was having some problems with some of their virus, or lack thereof, procedures. And so she got the cops involved, and it just shows this guy, I think he's the pastor, screaming at this woman, "Get out, get out!" And he continues to yell at this woman while the cops are there until she leaves. And the cops, they really did nothing. They just kind of stood there and just made sure that no one was going to actually get into a physical fight. And this man, this pastor, he calls the woman a communist, a Nazi, all kinds of stuff. But it was refreshing to see, and I think that's what we need to do. We need to shout down these virus heretics. We need to stand up for our religion. And I think, I don't know, maybe it will come to it. I don't know if that's going to happen in the U.S., but it certainly is happening in other countries. The United States, it'd be difficult to imagine some of those things happening. However, it happened in Texas. Taylor Marshall had her on his channel. This woman was taken out the church for not wearing a mask, even though it's not even federal, or it's not even state law in Texas to wear a mask, and so she wasn't wearing it in this church. But they said, "You're not welcome here because you're not wearing a mask." We're not going to be welcomed into a lot of places because, if we believe in the Catholic faith, it demonstrates that we might not be welcome in certain Catholic churches, definitely Jesuit parishes, but other ones as well, where the priests are virus heretics. Anytime, we actually have real police come into our churches, we need to stand up for ourselves. We don't need to physically defend ourselves at this point. We can be very calm about it, and we can just tell them, no, we're not complying with your orders. A lot of the cops, who knows what they actually think. Some of them are virus heretics as well. Some of them are believers in the virus religion, but some are not. And we need to get those people on our side. And anyway, if you see anyone being harassed by a virus heretic, we need to stand up for them, because we are the laity and we will not be silent.